There is a way of living that seems safe, but is, in reality, the most dangerous way of all. It's the life of the shore, the life of someone who watches from a distance, who comments without participating, who has opinions about everything but bets on nothing. Someone who knows all the risks, maps all the possibilities of failure, understands with precision exactly why things can go wrong, and uses that understanding not as a tool for preparation, but as a permanent justification for not acting. The shore feels like an intelligent place. From there, you can see everything. You don't get wet, you don't get hurt, you don't risk anything. You can watch the people who entered the river, analyze their movements, point out the mistakes they're making, feel the cold satisfaction of being right when someone stumbles. And while you're on the shore, you live with the illusion that you're preparing, that when the right moment arrives, when you've analyzed enough, when conditions are ideal, then you'll enter. But the moment never comes, because the moment isn't an external condition. It's an internal decision. And while you're waiting for the world to offer you a signal, an invitation, a guarantee that the water is the right temperature and the current is favorable, the river keeps moving. And every day on the shore takes you a little further from the ability to enter, because the habit of observing solidifies, hesitation becomes identity, and what started as a prudent pause becomes a permanent way of existing. The shore has a cost that doesn't appear immediately. It appears over time, accumulated in the moments when you look at those who entered the river and realize they've reached places you only imagined. Not because they were more talented, not because they had less fear, not because conditions were better for them, but because they made a choice you didn't make. They decided that the uncertainty of the water was preferable to the empty certainty of the shore, that making mistakes in motion was more valuable than getting the analysis right, that a life lived with imperfection and risk is exponentially richer than a life observed with safety and precision. And when you realize this, when the clarity of that cost finally arrives with its full weight, there's a temptation to turn that realization into yet another reason to stay still. The guilt over time spent on the shore can become the most sophisticated argument of all for not entering now. So much time has already passed. I'm past the right age. I missed the window. The people who entered early have gone too far to catch up. And that logic seems reasonable on the surface, but it's a trap because it uses regret about the past to justify repeating the same mistake in the present. The truth is that the river doesn't close. It doesn't have an entry window with an expiration date. It doesn't reserve access only to those who entered early, to those who never hesitated, to those who never stood on the shore. The river is here now, and entry is always possible for whoever decides to enter. What changes over time isn't the possibility, it's the cost of the delay. Every year on the shore is a year of experience, of learning, of development that didn't happen. But that cost has already been paid. It's past. And the past is not an argument for continuing to pay in the future. The sensible argument is the opposite. Since so much time has already passed, let not one more second be wasted in the same paralysis. Because what's at stake isn't just the external result you will or won't achieve. What's at stake is your relationship with life itself. The difference between being the protagonist and being the spectator, between writing the story and commenting on other people's stories, that difference isn't small, it's everything. It determines whether you'll wake up 20 years from now feeling like you lived or feeling like you watched. And no external achievement, no comfort, no security built on the shore compensates for the second feeling. It's empty in a way that nothing fills. There's a Japanese concept called ikigai, a word without a direct translation, but which roughly means the reason to get up in the morning. The intersection between what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what can sustain you. But before any ikigai, before any elaborate and articulated purpose, there's a more basic and more urgent condition. You need to be in the game. You need to have entered the river, because purpose isn't found on the shore. It reveals itself in movement, in process, in trial and error, in the concrete experience of doing things and learning from what they teach. Nobody discovers who they are by staying still. You discover who you are by acting and being transformed by what action demands of you. And action doesn't need to be perfect to be valid. This is one of the greatest traps of the shore, the belief that entering the river without knowing how to swim perfectly is irresponsible, that you should wait until you have sufficient mastery to guarantee you won't drown. But nobody learned to swim on dry land. The water teaches what the ground cannot. The real mistake, the concrete obstacle, the difficulty that appears when you're in the middle of the process and can't go back, those are the teachers that no prior preparation can replace. You learn by doing. You develop capacity by crossing. And every difficulty you face inside the river makes you more equipped for the next stretch, for the next current, for the next moment when the water gets deeper and you'll need everything you learned up to that point. There's something that people who enter the river discover early and that people on the shore never discover. That the water isn't as cold as it looked from a distance. That the risk when you're inside it is far more manageable than it seemed when you were analyzing from outside. That the fear that seemed insurmountable in observation transforms into competence in motion. Not instantly, there's a period of adjustment, of genuine discomfort, of moments when you question the decision to have entered. But that period passes, and what remains after it is something the shore never delivers. The confidence of someone who knows, from personal experience, that they can handle what the river offers. That confidence is different from any self-esteem built with words. It doesn't need external validation because it's founded on internal evidence. You don't believe you can, you know you can because you already have. And that knowing changes everything. It changes how you face the next challenges. It changes the size of what you consider possible. It changes the speed with which you act when an opportunity appears, because you no longer need to spend weeks analyzing whether you're ready. You already have the proof that you can adapt in the process. And there's still a dimension that goes beyond you, because when you enter the river, when you stop being a spectator and start being a participant, you change what's possible for the people around you. You become living evidence that entering is possible, that the risk is real but manageable, that the water is deep but doesn't swallow you. And that evidence, which you offer simply by being there and not on the shore, has a power that no speech has. It inspires not because it's motivational, but because it's real. Because you are the concrete proof that the decision to enter is a decision that can be made, that there's a side beyond it, and that the other side is infinitely better than anywhere on the shore. The world won't remember those who stood on the shore analyzing. The world remembers those who entered, who tried, who made mistakes and corrected course and continued. It remembers those who were in the game when it mattered. It remembers those who chose the imperfection of participation over the perfection of observation. And more than the world, you'll remember the day you decided the shore was no longer your place, that the river, with all its uncertainty and all its force, was where you needed to be, that the life you wanted to live was not compatible with standing outside of it. The world doesn't remember those who stayed on the shore. The world remembers those who entered the river. Enter